This day salvation has come to this house, for the Son of Man has come to seek out and save what was lost. We can see in Zacchaeus all the dynamics of spiritual conversion, of what it means to be converted to Christ. Jesus is passing through Jericho. Now, Jericho is both a historical city and a spiritual symbol in this gospel. In the Old Testament, you'll recall, the Israelites came into the promised land, and they have to conquer Jericho because Jericho is an enemy of Israel. They have to knock down the walls of Jericho. Jericho was opposed to Israel and is thus a symbol of sin. Because of our fallen human nature and because of our personal sins, we are all, in a sense, citizens of Jericho. We are all sinners. The good news is that Jesus has come to invade and defeat the city of sin. Now, at the heart of the city of sin is a terrible sinner by the name of Zacchaeus. Tax collectors were especially hated in the time of Jesus. They systematically cheated people who were already oppressed. The tax collectors worked with the oppressive power of Rome. Zacchaeus is described as a chief tax collector, and he is a wealthy man. He has been massively cheating people, taking advantage of his own countrymen. Despite this wickedness, or perhaps because of it, he was seeking to see who Jesus was. Often in the spiritual order, we find people who have wandered far away from God and away from a godly life, but who secretly seek after God and remain fascinated by him. The great spiritual archetype of this is Herod, who arrested John the Baptist, but then, in his off moments, loved to hear him preach. You see, every one of us is made for God, and it is next to impossible to completely eliminate the hunger for God. Zacchaeus wanted to see the Lord, but he was prevented by the crowd. Zacchaeus is trying to see, but he is short in stature, so he can't see because of the crowd. The crowd symbolizes all those common attitudes and perspectives that prevent us from seeing Jesus. In our day, there are many things that block us from seeing God, such as consumerism, materialism, and hedonism, which is the pursuit of pleasure. These are the types of things that block us as we try to see who Jesus is. These things get in the way. We may also see the crowd as symbolic of all those passions and distractions that come from within and drown out the religious voice. There are people who have a hunger for God, but there are so many competing instincts, appetites, and voices within them that the religious hunger is drowned out or forgotten. Though he is a wicked man, Zacchaeus does something good. He endeavors to overcome these obstacles. He climbs a sycamore tree. He is a wealthy man, perhaps middle-aged, probably wearing fine clothing. Nevertheless, he climbs the tree. Though it was probably difficult, probably embarrassing, he moved, he acted. Maybe some of you have a religious hunger, but you don't follow through. Maybe you are blocked by the crowd. You are blocked by these common attitudes. You are blocked by competing voices within you, so you don't act. Zacchaeus is your patron saint. Do what Zacchaeus did. Maybe you think, no, I'm too embarrassed. What would people say about me? Don't let that stop you. Zacchaeus accepted the difficulty, embarrassment of it, and he acted. Once Zacchaeus came into the line of Jesus' vision, Jesus responds, Zacchaeus, come down quickly, for today I must stay at your house. The point, I think, is that all Jesus needs is the smallest move on our part. Jesus always respects our freedom. There is never any coercion, but Jesus is ready to pounce the minute we are ready to open ourselves to him. Zacchaeus is a very wicked man, but at the key moment, he is able to move to Jesus. Jesus calls Zacchaeus by name. How wonderful that is. This is how the Lord knows us, not from a distance, not generically, but he calls us, each one of us, by name. Jesus announces that he is coming to stay at Zacchaeus' house. House in the Bible is often a symbol for the self or the soul, the place where, in the most intimate sense, we live. This is the heart of the spiritual life. Jesus wants to live in us, to take up his dwelling in us. St. Paul says, "It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me." Paul is another Zacchaeus who persecuted the first Christians and presided at the stoning of Stephen. Jesus also called Paul, known as Saul, by the name. Jesus wants to enter into all aspects of your life, not just part of you, but all of you. Your public life and private life, your marriage, your friendships, your job, everything. Jesus intends to move in. The problem is, we want to keep Jesus at bay, or at best, allow him to move into one little room. But Jesus wants to move into your entire house. See what happens when Jesus prepares to move in. Zacchaeus, who had spent his life defrauding others, now announces, "I will give half of all my possessions to the poor and repay 4 times over anyone I have defrauded." Be prepared for a big change when you allow the divine life to invade you. The divine life only exists in gift form. God is love. Therefore, when that love invades you, you become conformed to it. That is why the inrushing of grace always leads to the outpouring of love. That is a description of salvation. Grace pours in and love pours out. That is why Jesus can say, "This day salvation has come to this house, for the Son of Man has come to seek out and save what was lost."